going upstairs?
My name is Jake. I'm 26 years old, and I've never been the kind of guy who believes in ghost stories. I always thought they were just exaggerations, paranoia. But after what happened to me that winter, I never doubted again. It was last year, December, one of the coldest winters I've ever seen in Chicago. I left work late, almost 11 at night. A light drizzle was falling and the freezing wind cut through me like a knife. God, all I wanted was to get home. My car was parked in a lot about 2 blocks from my office because the building's garage? Yeah, ridiculously expensive. So I stuffed my hands into my pockets and walked fast, dodging puddles, trying to ignore how the wind stung my face. When I got to the lot, I stopped. There were only 2 cars, mine and an old red Toyota. The lot was one of those open ones, just a small booth at the entrance where the night guard, Mike, always stayed. But tonight, he wasn't there. Weird. Mike never left that booth. He was always there. Always. Listening to the radio, drinking coffee, complaining about the cold. But now, the booth's light was off. No sign of him. Something felt off. I shook it off and kept walking to my car. It was parked near the back. As I reached for the door handle, I heard it. A sound clack, 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 like teeth chattering. I froze. The sound was coming from the red Toyota. I did what any sane person would do. I ignored it. I just wanted to go home. I got in, slammed the door shut, and started the engine. But then, I looked in the rearview mirror, and my blood ran cold. There was a man standing next to the Toyota. Tall, thin, black hoodie, hood up. He was facing sideways, staring at something inside the car, but he was trembling, not shivering, not like someone cold. No, his whole body was jerking, shoulders twitching, head tilted, mouth open, and that sound, clack, 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 clack. I should have left, should have driven off right then and there. But I didn't. My stupid curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The second the light hit him, he stopped, completely still. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward me. Dude, he had no eyebrows. His skin, pale. His eyes, hollow, wide open. But his mouth, oh God, his mouth. It was stretched into this impossible grin. His teeth were huge, crooked. He opened and closed his mouth twice. Clack, clack. I lost it. I threw the car into reverse and floored it. Tires screeching, heart pounding. Didn't care if I hit anything, I just needed to get out. But as I sped past the entrance, I saw Mike, lying on the ground, eyes wide, mouth open, just like the man by the Toyota. I wanted to stop, I swear, but every instinct in my body screamed at me. Go. So I did. I drove like a maniac all the way home. Barely parked before I was running inside, locking every door. My chest felt like it was gonna explode. I needed to calm down. Think. I grabbed my phone, opened my work group chat, and typed, "Yo, did anyone see Mike today?" Silence. A few minutes later, Leo, who also worked late, replied, "Mike? Nah, I don't think he came in today. I saw some weird guy near the booth, though." "Homeless dude, maybe?" My stomach dropped. "Homeless? No. No way. I didn't know what to do. I called the cops, told them there was a guy passed out in the lot, kept it vague. Didn't say too much. The next day, nothing. No reports, no news, no police at the scene. When I got to work, I asked again. They told me Mike had called in sick that day, but I saw him. I know I did. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't parking there anymore. Found another lot. More expensive, didn't care. A few days later, I drove past my old lot. It was closed, padlock on the gate. Empty. I asked some old guy nearby what had happened. He shrugged, said the owner sold the place. Just like that. Since then, I've never gone back. Never saw that red Toyota again. But sometimes, when I leave work late, when I glance in the rearview mirror at my new parking lot, I swear, I see someone standing there, in the dark. A tall figure in a black hoodie, shaking. And whenever I hear the sound of teeth clicking, I don't look. I just press the gas. My name's Rick. I'm 32, and I live in San Francisco. I'm just your average guy. Office job, binge-watching shows, hanging out with friends on Friday nights. I'm not the type to believe in ghost stories or horror movie nonsense. But what happened to me that winter? Man, even now I get chills just thinking about it. It was a Thursday night in mid-July, and the cold was unbearable. The wind was biting and I was heading home from work, already past 10 p.m. I'm not one to stay out too late, but like always, the workload was insane and I lost track of time. The workday was over, but I was buried in emails. Emails. The streets were deserted. The few people I did see were huddled up against the cold. I thought about calling an Uber, but I was broke, so I just decided to take the train. The station wasn't far. When I got to the station, it was emptier than usual. I was relieved because the trains are usually packed at this hour. But with the cold and the late time, there were just a few people. I spotted maybe 3 or 4 guys. When the train pulled up, it was nearly empty. I made my way to my usual spot, the one closest to the door, because I'm paranoid about being too far from an exit. I settled in, put on my headphones, and started scrolling through my phone. Everything was normal until the train started moving. The ride would be quick, 15 minutes. But as soon as the train left the station, I felt a shiver, like the air had gotten colder. That's when I noticed a guy sitting further down the car. He looked off. He was around 40, maybe, wearing a black coat and a hat that covered most of his face. He was sitting still, head down, staring at the floor. Something about him made me uneasy, but I didn't pay much attention because, like everyone else, I was too busy with my phone. Then the train took a curve, and that's when the guy moved. Slowly, he got up and started walking down the aisle. That's when I started feeling really weird. It's not normal for someone to walk around on the train, especially at this hour. The car was empty. Something about him didn't sit right. He walked right up to me, stopping just in front of my seat. He stared at me without looking directly, like he was waiting for something. I tried to stay calm, pretending to focus on my phone, but I felt a strange pressure in my chest. Then he spoke, his voice deep and raspy. "You shouldn't be here." I froze. His words were so chilling I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded, unsure of what to say. The train began slowing down, signaling we were near my stop. But when I looked again, the man was gone. I rushed off the train, thinking maybe he got off at the last second. But when the train doors opened, I saw no one leaving. It was empty. I quickly glanced through the other cars. Nothing. The train had stopped at the station and was completely deserted. The worst part, I couldn't forget that stare. That feeling something wasn't right. I started getting paranoid about that train, but I kept taking the same route, telling myself it was all in my head. But every time I passed that station, it felt like something was watching me. And the strangest thing? Every time I looked at the car where the man had been, the lights would flicker, like something was moving in there, even when no one was around. One weekend, I decided to ask a station security guard about it. When I mentioned the weird guy, he said, "You're not the only one who's seen that." He told me passengers had been reporting similar things. After the last station, the train felt different, like it had a presence. Even train operators had noticed strange things but never paid attention. After all, when the train reaches the final stop, it's turned off and left in the garage until the next day. I asked if anyone had disappeared, but he just made a strange face and said that if I noticed more things, I should probably stop riding the train. I never went back after that, and to this day, every time I take the train at night, I expect to see that man again. The feeling of being watched never goes away. Now, whenever I travel at night and the train's empty, I try to focus on the window, not thinking about what might be in front of me. Sometimes when the train stops and the doors open, I'm still waiting to see that man in the hat standing in front of me. But deep down, I know he won't show up again. The strangest part is, to this day, no one can explain who that guy was. Only I know what I saw, and honestly, I don't want to know anymore. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me last winter. I don't like talking about it much, because every time I do, it feels like the air around me gets heavy. But whatever. Maybe it's good to let it out. It was late December, freezing cold. I lived alone in a small apartment, the kind that barely fits a dining table. But it was fine for me. I worked remotely, so I spent most of my time there, with the heater on and a coffee always nearby. The building was old, kind of falling apart, but the rent was cheap. That night I had stayed up late, scrolling through my phone, watching random videos. When I finally decided to sleep, my bedroom was small, just enough space for my bed and a dresser with a TV on top. The only window faced the alleyway next to the building, a place no one really paid attention to. At most, a stray cat would pass by occasionally. Around 3 a.m., I woke up. My phone vibrated. A notification. A message from an unknown number. "Are you awake?" I stared at it, confused. Normally, I just ignore it. But for some reason, a chill ran down my spine. I looked around my room. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. I decided to reply, "Who is this?" Nothing. No answer. But a minute later, another message. "Look at your window." My stomach dropped. I don't know why, but that message filled me with an awful feeling. My room was dark. Only the light from my phone illuminated my face. The window was closed, the curtain slightly open. I didn't want to look, but I did. And I swear to God, there was someone there, a person standing in the alley. I couldn't see their face clearly. It was too dark, but I knew they were looking at me. My heart started racing. I immediately shut the curtain, locked the window, as if that would actually help. I grabbed my phone, tried calling the police, but before it even rang, another message popped up. "It won't help." I froze. What the hell did that mean? I hadn't replied, hadn't said anything. How did they know what I was about to do? My hands were shaking, but I hit call anyway. The phone rang once, twice, and then, "This number does not exist." At that moment, I started to panic. My entire body trembled, my brain desperately trying to come up with a rational explanation. I stared at the closed curtain. Was that thing still there? Then, my phone vibrated. Again. "Do you really want to see me?" I threw my phone onto the bed and ran out of my room, locked the door behind me, sat in the living room, hugging myself for warmth. Minutes passed, maybe hours. I picked up my phone again, but the screen was black, dead, and I knew it had at least 80% battery before all of this started. The silence in my apartment was suffocating. But then, I heard a sound, not from the alley, from inside the apartment. It was coming from my bedroom. I wanted to run, grab my keys, get the hell out. But my body wouldn't move. Every muscle screamed for me to run. But I just sat there, breathing heavily, my chest rising and falling like I had just finished a marathon. The sound came again, like something scraping against the wooden floor. And then, a whisper. "You saw me." I don't remember what happened after that. Somehow, I found the courage to grab my keys and run out of the apartment. I spent the rest of the night sitting in the lobby of my building, wrapped in a blanket one of my neighbors gave me. Too scared to go back. The next morning, when the sun finally came up, I called a friend to go with me. My room was just how I had left it. Except for the window, it was open,